Hello. So in this video, this update, I wanted to share a time lapse of me putting everything up in Unreal. This is kind of the fun bit of finally seeing all my assets together now after spending so long just, creating all these assets individually, separately. Now finally seeing them together in the same scene with all the lighting and everything done up. So, of course, this is just the standard lighting. This isn't going to be lighting right now. I'm going to just focus on getting everything up. So I just figured I'll talk about what I'm doing in the recording as we watch it. And maybe that's beneficial. I don't know. If anyone's watching these blog videos, then I assume that you want to know what I'm doing. So at an overview level. So, there's an occasional stop here and there in the video. That's just me probably taking a break and forgetting to pause it, or I'm getting distracted or something, watching a YouTube video. Okay, so I want to talk about the floor material there. So that black material, it's just triplanar projected onto some primitive cubes. So I can just drag in a cube in the scene, apply this material on, and based on like where it is in the world, like it's going to be projected on world coordinates. So I can have two squares like right up here, as you can see, and there's no seam because it's getting the UV projections from the world coordinates. So that's really helpful. I wanted to do that. I just figured it would be easier if I'm like making all these different floor pieces. So it's really exciting to get the all these wall pieces in, and the red frames in there. Like, I don't know, those red frames add a bit of color and life, I feel like. I want to put in like the steam, leaking steam from pipes and things. I think that'll be a cool addition. And then the idea of this is going to be, it's a portfolio piece, so we'd have to have like a couple shots or something with lights spinning, steam going off, and lights flickering or whatever. That could be fun. So all I'm focused on right now in this part is just I'm setting up the perimeter of everything, trying to figure out what space I've got to work with. I mean, I'm not exactly figuring things out on the fly because I have my block out, which I think I put on occasionally. But yes, I'm just trying to match up the scale of everything from the reference. So in the one Blender file where I had pulled in the photogrammetry, the 3D scan, I had blocked out some of like the wall panels in there with just cubes and stuff. So I just thought, well, I'll just pull any blockouts that I've done, or any of my blockout objects that I've done, and just pull it in Unreal to use that as, to help me space things and to know where things need to go. So that was helpful. My panel size is still not accurate to the reference of the actual game. They have theirs stretched a little bit, but I figured I need to stick it on a grid because I'm going to have an easier time setting this up. So that's what I did. I don't know what they did. Maybe they made theirs the exact same size as what it was in the movies or something. I don't know. But it doesn't look like it snaps to the grid very well. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, so this emission light here, the ceiling light that I did, I just pulled in the standard plane and put emission material on it, and then I'm putting those ceiling pieces on there. I must have cereal on my mind. It is lunchtime. So yeah, I've just made a blueprint of that and stuck that up there. The pipes up there on, in those panels above the door, they are not textured yet. That won't be a hard thing to texture. I'm just going to need some, some like normal stripes, some panel lines and things to make them look like there's something going on. Add some reflectivity or whatever. Won't be too hard to figure out. At this point, what I'm doing is, so annoying. So whenever you create a blueprint, and I made blueprints of all my meshes because I think as far as I understand, that is a more efficient way to do it because of instancing. It sets everything to movable by default, and I guess, because with blueprints you're probably scripting it and you're probably moving something, so obviously it's going to be set to movable. It's not going to be staying still. But that's not good because we're only rendering this thing and I'm just making them into blueprints, to basically just group them and instance them. So I had to go through every single one, click on every single one of them, select the objects in the blueprint, hit static, save, and I probably didn't need to press compile, but I did, and then close that and move on to the next one, do it all again for everything I've done. And any new blueprints that I make, I need to remember to do that. So I probably still have 1 or 2 blueprints in my scene now after creating a bunch of, collected assets, turning those into blueprints. I probably missed a couple there. So the lighting changed here. I took some time after, I think that night, whenever I was just taking watching a lighting video, so it took so long to get out. I was watching a lighting video and just taking a lot of notes and things, and I still feel like my knowledge of where all the lighting tools are and things in Unreal is still kind of limited. I've used Unreal, I won't say quite a bit. I've used it a few times. I used it when I was at Epic Games. Of course, they're not going to use Unity. I used Unreal for my first portfolio piece, the Zelda scene. And that was, trying to figure out all the lighting settings there was rough. I did one little Christmas project, a month-long Christmas project in Unreal with a couple friends. It's just a little prototype experiment. I use it there and then I use it here. So I feel like my lighting knowledge in here and where the tools are and what to change and everything to get certain results is still kind of vague. So I was following a video that explained those things really well. I was taking notes and I didn't quite finish it. So it's really foggy right now. And I end up getting rid of the fog because I don't know, it's in the way. It's kind of annoying me just looking at it right now. Here, every now and then I notice that I don't have a piece. I didn't make a long enough pipe or anything, or something. So I'm just going back to model that size. So that was a 5.5 meter there. I only had a 5 meter. In the actual block out, it was 5.5. I thought, well, that's easy enough, just copy the 5, stretch it up half a unit, and pull that in. So those were really quick, simple to make. So I'm just setting up all the pipes now where I see, where I know there are pipes. And just trying to plug everything in one pipe at a time, and everything snaps to the grid really well, so that's super helpful. I think that was probably the hardest part of doing everything, was figuring out exactly what in the reference, how far apart everything was and what their grid snapping was, and we determined that it was quarter of the increments was a quarter of a unit or a quarter of a meter. So we figured that one out, and everything seemed to line up pretty well. Here I'm making a pipe variation by adding some details onto it. So there's a lot of pipes in the original that have a lot of these details on to add complexity. I think it really helps. I needed to make a smaller pipe too. The smaller pipe was useful in a couple of places, so I made that variation in Blender. And then once I got everything together, you can select everything and go to blueprints and convert selection right here. Convert selection to blueprint. The annoying thing about this though is it doesn't really know where to put the pivot points. So it just gets the median point of all the objects that you've selected. What am I doing here? That was fun. It gets all the median points and creates the blueprint pivot based on the median of all those. So I figured out, I made a video on this because I couldn't figure out, it took me a while to find a straightforward answer. So I wanted to make a video to give that straightforward answer. I couldn't find one, so I put another one out there in case anyone else is having the same problem. But you had to parent everything to one object and then create that blueprint and it would have that pivot point. I needed the pivot point of the pipe because the pipes is what is on the grid, right? So there is, this is where I'm still figuring out. The pivot point is somewhere in the middle, so super annoying. I did figure out the next day though, and get the pivot point on the pipe. So I'm just, there we go. I think, yeah, I rebuilt it all because I didn't know. I feel like I'm kind of clunky in Unreal, but there's also a lot of things that I feel like are inconsistent in Unreal, or like some quality of life things that just, yeah, I don't know. Equally, I think there's me not knowing what I'm doing and clicking on the wrong things, and there's stuff like, you know, just clunkiness of Unreal. I feel like Unreal is kind of clunky. But I still prefer it over Unity. It's a lot more artist friendly, I feel like. Has been for a while. Unity's kind of getting there now. Like they've got the new render pipeline, and they're putting in the like the material graph editor, which is super helpful. Like an artist isn't going to want to come in and start programming their own shaders. I mean, that's what you're doing with the graph editor, but it's with nodes. Like you can see everything. You don't have to know the language. You just plug one input into plug an output into an input, and there's your material. So anyway, that's a strong reason why I like Unreal. It just seems a bit more artist centric. I don't know if that's the right word. Centered. Anyway, plugging in all these pipes, it's really fun to see them all like weaving around each other. That's fun. Just one pipe at a time, or two sometimes. So what else to talk about? So yeah, sometimes I noticed the spacing was a little off. Like I wasn't sure how to completely replicate it in replicate the reference to mine. So I kind of had to shift things around a bit, pull some pipes out, pull some in. So it's obviously not a one-to-one thing, and I think that's good and fine. Like figure your own problems out, because that's probably what they did, you know, making it. Like they didn't have any plan or reference. Obviously, they made it from scratch. And then yeah, so there's the floor plane again. Sorry, not the floor plane, the ceiling emission plane. I also learned that those ceiling strips there that cover up the light are like exactly one unit apart, that or 1.5. I don't know. They line up with the panels, the wall panels, pretty well. So I don't know if I'll go back and change that. I do wonder though if it will help. It kind of looks a bit too repetitive, too many lines. So I wonder if that would help break that up a bit. If that made no sense, then don't worry. Just the ceiling panel lines, the ceiling panel strip things just look a bit too repetitive on that bit, I think. So I guess I'll just quickly talk about like my decision to do this scene. Right after here, just I'm making just different like pipe addition, like variations that I can just copy and paste here and there to add some complexity. So my decision to do this piece, I've had like thoughts here now and then. You hear, and you're in conversations with people that, you know, the advice that is generally given is, you know, design your own thing. Don't just copy everything. Don't just do fan art. Just make your own stuff. I get that, and I agree with that a lot too. And you know, I guess I've my own. Like I've definitely got my own issues with like perfectionism. Like I probably brought that up in one of these videos before too. And just not getting things right or anything. Like all that stuff's annoying to deal with. But I also just feel like I have so much more to learn, and I want my portfolio pieces to already look good. I don't want to design them myself yet. Like I'll figure out design as I'm copying things. I don't know. That's just kind of how I've learned, I guess. So I'm very musical. I play many different instruments. And how I learned piano was like I actually just learned a bunch of Zelda songs and started playing around with different chords and stuff there and moving things up and just experimenting with them. And I'm completely self-taught when it comes to music. I took piano lessons as a kid, but I don't remember anything. Like, I remember that there's a middle C and that, you know, the letters go up to G and then start again at A and all that stuff. But I didn't, whatever. But by copying things and by doing those, by copying them and experimenting with them, I learn a lot. And I don't know, maybe that's just how I learn. But like in traditional art, how do you learn that traditional art? You usually are copying, like, you know, you got figure drawing and things, or you copying poses, like you just come up with them from your head to make them look right. No, like, at least for a long time, you focus your studies on copying what you see. Like, you're painting what you see. You're learning to see color the way, like, you just, unfiltered color or interpreted or whatever, you know? Like, you're seeing color for what it is and being able to replicate that exactly. And you find you don't know those things when you try and copy it. You go, man, why doesn't it look right? And you start learning all these, reasons why. Like, well, sometimes I think I'm seeing green when actually it's still kind of blue or whatever, Anyway, so in copying what you see, you learn a lot. I mean, that's how kids learn, right? They learn how to talk by copying. And I kind of feel like I'm almost helplessly defending myself. And okay, maybe I am. But I feel like I get a lot from doing this. So just from experience, like, I just feel like I get a lot from copying what I see. Yeah, I'm not the best designer right now. Maybe I am. Like, I'm not the best designer, but maybe I'm a lot better than I give myself credit for. And I just haven't done it enough. And I just need to, practice having good designs. But in copying these things, you don't just straight up copy. Like, you copy it and you think about it, and why is this designed the way it is? Why are these placed? Why is there this spacing? Why are these shapes down here? Like, what does this shape do? And you're getting used to all these forms and things. Like, just looking at the wall panels and the designs of those things. When I was creating those, like, it was really useful to be able to just, you kind of copy them and just think about the design more as I'm copying it, I guess. And I don't think there's any shame in doing that. And I guess I'm saying this because I feel like a lot of the time it's kind of looked down on to keep doing only fan art. And, I don't want to just do fan art all the time, but I think there's a lot of value in copying an art style a lot and studying and really thinking about it and trying to replicate it. As you're trying to replicate it and you can't get it, you think, what am I missing? And when you figure out those things that you're missing, that's when you learn. And, I feel like I have a long way to go when it comes to materials too. I don't think my materials are bad. I just feel like sometimes they end up being a bit flat. And especially in this game, a lot of their metallic materials look very shiny and very wet too, but it's shinier and more appealing. And I don't know if that's the way I should go or not, or should I be more like trying to be more physically accurate or what? I don't know. But in copying the materials, it's like, I feel like I'm learning a lot. So like, I don't know, I think to me, it's fascinating to try and replicate exactly what they have and see, like, well, what methods could you go about doing something like this? So, I don't know, in defense of people saying, design your own things, like, I think it's okay to not do that all the time. Like, I want to be able to design my own things really well. I just don't think that, if I just tried designing stuff now from scratch, it's not going to be as good as the scene ended up being, because I don't have that design experience yet, So in replicating this scene, in copying it, like these pipes right here and the those kind of wing shape thing there with the slanted pipes, like, and how that fits with other pipes around it and everything. Thinking about those things, putting them in place there, and going, oh yeah, and just noticing these things on a more, not just intimate level, but you know, it's on a closer level because you're actually doing it, not just looking at the picture. I mean, you could take those things apart, but for me, I've got to get my hands dirty, I guess. I don't know. I never did very well in school. I couldn't just, like, I have to reread things over and over and over again. I just wasn't very successful in school, and I don't like to read much because I just feel like it takes me forever. If my wife gives me something to read, I'm usually rereading it constantly. Just, you know, one or two times, just my focus level is terrible. I was always like the last one to finish tests. I don't know if that was just perfectionism or test anxiety or whatever, but academically I just sucked, unless it was stuff I really cared about. And, you know, I excelled at things like music and stuff because I just copied what I did, and I played with it, and ended up getting quite ahead in like the understanding of music and the replicating of music and getting the feel for it just by copying. So, I don't know. F the rules, I guess, right? Like, F what, not completely what everyone says. Like, they're giving great advice. I just don't think it should be ignored. Like, copying something should be ignored. And you shouldn't only copy things. I think you should try to stretch yourself. Copy something, then go and try and make your own variation of it, and then go back to copy something again. It's like having, like, I've seen a really good technique to get better at drawing something, or, you know, drawing something from your head, I mean, or making something from your head, designing something, getting something to look right. First thing you do is don't pull up any reference. So let's just say monkey head. So, whatever, a car. So make a car. Let's say, you know, draw your own car without looking at it. Okay, so you draw it, and it just doesn't look right. You're missing a couple things. You go, oh, okay, so there you go. You've made something, and it doesn't look right. Now you pull up the reference again. Go look outside at your car again, and then draw that from copying it this time, using that as your reference. Like, have it right there and draw it, and notice things as you copy it. So you copy and you go, oh yeah, there's this detail and I missed this detail. Nice, okay. So things are starting to come back. You're learning now because you had a gap that you're now filling with the information. And then it's going to stick. So it doesn't end there. Then you draw it again without the reference. After you've drawn it without the reference first time, draw it with the reference the second time, and now the third time you draw it without the reference again. And see what sticks. And it's not going to look exactly right again. And then you can really compare. And, you know, you go along doing that. I don't know if you just keep doing it or whatever. But you start to get a sense for the things that you're missing and what you're lacking at. So, and I think doing this stuff, studying and replicating, I think it's great. Like, I've never taken any art, you know, art schooling stuff. I'd like to. I think I've got so much, you know, so long to go. I've got a long ways to go when it comes to art, for sure. Like, I feel like, you know, I drew as a kid. People knew me as an art guy. I could draw a lot. I drew cartoons and stuff. People liked what I drew. But right now, in a professional setting, it's like, you know, man, I've got to be really good at art now. I've got to know these art fundamentals. So by copying things and studying it and experimenting with it, mixing things up, I think it's a great way to learn. So a bit of a ramble, I guess, but a rant, I don't know. Anyway, I think copying stuff is important, and I'd like to copy another scene in the future too. Like, I'd love to get into more stylized things. That would be really fun. I was doing stylized when I was at Epic Games. So my first portfolio piece, my Zelda piece, helped get me my first job, which was at Epic Games. Like, it was a miracle how that worked. I feel like, yeah, I put the portfolio piece together, and it was, you know, it was a good portfolio piece because I was copying something that had already been designed. I wasn't trying to do it myself, right? So I was copying, you know, from Twilight Princess outside Link's house. You can go on my ArtStation, just artstation.com, and look for Joseph Bergen. And that piece helped me get my first job, which was an absolute miracle. But that's a story for another time. So I was doing a lot of stylized work there, and it really made me think about my art decisions. We had concept artists, or concept art and things to copy from. You know, designing things was their job, and that is a full-time job, designing all these different things. And I was working on Spy Jinx, the mobile game. It's a mobile game from Epic, so no PBR. That was good for me, I think, to work with those limitations and really think about art and color and the decisions that go behind all of that. So I'd like to do some more stylized stuff again. I'm really drawn to the, like, I've always loved the colorfulness and the use of PBR materials in things like Super Mario Odyssey. Like, first time playing the game, I was just like, man, it's gorgeous. And I was getting into environment art there, so I was just like looking and studying everything. Like, it's so stylized, but like they make use of the roughness and metallic in really cool ways. I just love it. I'd love to study something like that. Or Animal Crossing. I love the shapes of Animal Crossing. I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. I don't really care too much about like the Overwatch kind of style, and I attempted to do something like that when I was still at Epic to, you know, help me as just like a stylized study. Well, I don't know. I'm not really super drawn to that style, I guess. I don't know. I kind of hate that I'm drawn to these. I've got such mixed feelings about Nintendo, and I don't know. But I do happen to like the like Super Mario stuff, that just really clean, round, it's just this cool. Like, I've always admired that growing up in games. So anyway, that's something I'd like to do next, and I'd like to copy that, because, or make a scene that is, you know, based off of those materials. Like, make those materials but make up my own scene and things. For a while I studied Animal Crossing. This is still just going on of, like, you know, copying things as opposed to making something new. I studied Animal Crossing, the style of it, for a bit, because I was, you know, just fascinated by, like, I've always loved Animal Crossing. I grew up playing Animal Crossing in my teenage years. And I've always loved those shapes and things. So I started just drawing the buildings and stuff. Like, why do I like these so much? So I just started copying them, and started noticing things as I was copying them. Sorry. Things like proportions and, you know, the sizes of things, like the things they decide to include and the things that they don't. They have very, like, iconish type shapes, very bold, easily readable. And I think that's so cool. And I learned that by copying it. And then, you know, trying to make buildings myself, keeping that same style, is fun. But you have to copy it a little while. It's like kids, again. You know, kids learn to talk, and then they kind of start making up their own gibberish, and they get better and better as they do that. Then they copy you and then do their own thing. Anyway. So I guess this turned into quite the talk on doing your own, you know, decide, just do what interests you, I guess. If it's designing your own stuff, great. If it's copying, great. I don't think, as long as you're learning, I think that's the most important thing. I definitely feel like I'm learning doing this scene. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching all this. I hope that was interesting to see. the time lapse. I think it's always satisfying to see those time lapse things. Like, look at all those pipes. It's still not done, but all I have to do now is like I have to add the red scaffolding, the structural frames, and start adding some lighting in here too. So those are my two next things. I think I'm just going to take a break from doing the pipes right now and just only focus on doing those things. So adding some walls to, you know, close everything off up there in the ceiling area, and start adding some of my own lights in there and lighting this scene. So those are the main steps. Anyway, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoy my content. I hope anything I've said is helpful. And yeah, I guess if you want to see more videos of me talking about stuff, that could be cool. I keep thinking that'd be fun to do. But yeah, I think that's it. So I'll jump off now. Bye!